Day 13 of this Vauxhall Vivaro camper van conversion, and what we're up to today, we're going to do some more of the first fix electrics. We have the consumer unit to put in, and then we are going to wire up this unit to the solar and to the DC to DC charger, and at that point we can put the furniture in. So if we're lucky, if the weather holds and everything else, we'll get all of that done today, and then we'll be looking at doing the tall cupboard at the end of the van, the back end of the van, and then we're getting fairly close. So the first thing we want to do here is just start prepping up this consumer unit. This is just a normal garage consumer unit, two-way, and I'm going to put some little holes in the back here. That'll do it. And we want to take a couple of these out, one at the bottom for the feed from the mains hookup, and where we'll take the other one. We'll take the other one out of the side here, because that's going to go this way to the sockets. Alrighty, and with that done, we want this cable, which is going to come in through the side here. I'm going to put this in a conduit, and the conduit will go into this hole. We want this cable, which is going to feed the 240 sockets. So we want to just snip that to size and have that one about there. Now obviously that's the earth. The neutral will be going to the neutral bar here, and the live will be going to this one here, 16 amps. So the first thing to consider is where to put this consumer unit, and I think I'll put it about here, so we have access from the back door, and we'll be able to get to that quite easily should we need to. So I'm going to screw that to the wall just there. Okay, so to do this, I've taken this top bar out. It just makes it much easier to get it the screws. You can indeed take everything out and do that if you wish, but this will work just fine, I hope. So we're going to place that there, and I'll screw it in. Next thing, we want to take this wire here, which is coming from the mains hookup. That's going to go up through the bottom, connect into here, and then that's about it. As I say, we do need the neutral bar for this. I'll have to nip out later and get one. I'm going to take the main breaker out. They just have a little clip on the bottom of them, and that should come out. And then we want our neutral in here, a live in here, and the earth to here. So I shall just strip the ends of those, get them the right length. We'll take a little bit more off both of them, so whack them down to there, and then with all of that in, we can just click this back in. There it is. Okay, that's for consumer unit wired up. As I say, can't do much more. I can't put the front or anything or test it yet until I get this neutral bar, which I'll get later on this afternoon, and then we'll test all of this before we do anything else with it. And I've left this cable on here, which is going to feed the socket, and I'll just leave that for now, and we'll get it cut to size once we get the side of the cupboard on. Okay, now we just have a little bit more of this first fix electrics to do. We want a cable for the fridge, and we want a cable for the water pump, and we want to run both of them back to that tall cupboard. So I'll cut them to size to begin with. This one's for the fridge, and we want a similar one for the water pump, which is going to be about here. So again, well, actually that will have to come up, so I'll leave a little bit more on there, and again over the wheel arch and up through the cupboard. So we have fridge and we have water pump. Next thing we want is these cables to go from the battery to the fuse box. So I'm going to cut these to length. Okay, now the only other cable which needs to go in here is this one, and this is going to run from the Renogy unit to the monitor, which is going to be on the back cupboard as well. So I'll lay this one out. I'm not going to cut this. If there's any surplus on it, I'll just clip that up when we get it into the cabinet. Okay, so with all of those laid in, the next thing we want to do is stick it in this conduit. All of them, we should get all of them in the one piece of conduit, I think. So I'm going to start from this end and we'll just work it into there. I did see a thing that said if you put a spanner in this conduit like this, that'll open it up and makes it easier to get the wire in. So I'm going to test that right now. And I think the idea with that is you would put the spanner in and pull it down the conduit and just push the wires in behind it. And that seems to work well. Always been a bit fiddly getting the wires into this split conduit, but that seems to work quite well. So we will continue with that. Just want to get this one in for the water pump. Alrighty, so I have all those cables in the conduit. I've put the conduit around the cable for the consumer unit also over there. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the furniture back in and just place it, because I want to know exactly where the side of this battery box is going. Rightio, now just to show you what I've done here, I've got the main frame of this back in. I've put it in the right position at the back. We have a spacer here which tells us how wide the fridge is. I'll square that up at the back and then we'll have an accurate position for this battery box. I'll slide that right up there, mark it on the floor, then I'll take everything else back out and we will wire up the battery and the rest of the electrics here. Alrighty, now before fixing this in, a couple of things to do, and one of them is we want the main negative lead from the chassis of the van to come through to the leisure battery. So I'm going to take this unit out altogether. We've got it marked on the floor, and then we can pull the wires through here for the solar and for the DC to DC from the starter battery essentially. So let's get on with that one. Stick that back there for now. And here we have the, as I say, from the starter battery, and we also have our ignition circuit cable here also. So we will, and at this point we know where everything's going, so we can take this tape off the floor later. So we're taking this cable, which is coming from the starter battery, and that wants to go in here. So I will clip that to size, take that off and put a crimp on that and secure it to that. Ready, so we've got that one in. Just want to tighten it up. And that negative cable will go to the negative battery terminal. So again, I shall just slip that back out of the conduit a little bit. I'm saying the negative battery terminal is about there, so I'm going to cut this here and do the same. Okay, so that's that one attached. Whilst we're here, we might as well put this one on also. This is to the chassis, so I'll just stick that one on there. Okay, with that one done, we move on to the solar. Now we have the live solar cable here, and that is going to the bottom of this breaker. So let's just get a measurement on that one. Okay, that being that, what we have left is the negative from the solar. So similarly, let's have a look if we can get this one out of the way. We are going to take that one up to the negative battery terminal, and that will be on this one. So again, I'll cut that about there. Right, so we've got all them on there. The only other one to put on would be to the fuse box, but I'll probably just whack that on here. Either one of them would do. Now, the only other thing we have left coming out of there is this ignition cable. And what I'm going to do with that is, I think I'll run it along the floor, up here, and then into the box. Okay, so we've got all this wired up. We've got the fuse box in there, wired into it. Got the fuse box wired into here. All of these are switched off. And what I'm going to do at this point is get the battery, place it, and then connect these terminals up. Alrighty, I've got the positive terminal on. Got the battery in here, got the positive terminal on. Now we're going to whack this negative on, and our unit springs into life. And I've just clicked this breaker and the solar has come on as well, so we're good. So the last thing to do with this is secure it up or wire it up to the starter battery. So I'll do that now, and then we'll make sure everything's working, and then we can start getting these cabinets in. Okay, one more thing. I've just been down to Tool Station and got the bus bar for the fuse box. So I'm going to secure that in. I'll test all of that, and then if we're good to go, we'll get the furniture in. Alrighty, and just to test that, I've just temporarily hooked this up to this extension, and we have the, if we go around the side here, we have the mains hookup in here, and I have that plugged in the workshop. And our jigsaw. So I'm happy with this electrical installation. I'm going to put the front on that, and then we actually can get on with the cabinets. Put a square on. That is spot on. Now I'm going to drill this through into the side here of the battery box. And to do that, what I've done is just make sure that this line, the leading line on the battery box, is square with the floor, and measure in from there, measure in from the other side, and then put a couple of pilot holes in there. Okay, so I've got the main cabinet structure back in, and I'm just going to line that up. I've got the spacer here for the width of the fridge, and we'll use that to get this in the correct position. We just want to get that conduit through the holes we cut for it earlier. Alrighty, so having gotten that into position, what I'm going to do again is a couple of pilot holes through these floor battens, and then I'll continue that all the way along. Make sure that it's square first, then a couple of screws through the floor battens into the floor. And to fix the tops of these, I'm just going to do a couple of skews through into this back batten on each of these cross struts, and then that should be secured, and we'll get on with the tall cupboard. Okay, I'll show you what I've done with this back cupboard, the tall cupboard. I've put these battens in right up the ceiling and right the way around. Same on the back here. We're going to have an opening here, and we're going to have an opening there, and we are going to have an opening here. So next thing to do is measure this up accurately. It's going from yon side of that locker, it'll come along, come up like so. So into the workshop, we'll get a sheet of ply out, we'll measure that up, and then we will cut it. Okay, so we have our piece of plywood out. This is a 5.5mm ply, and I'm going to transfer the measurements from this pad. Right, so I have all of that marked out. Now I want to keep this part of the wood intact, so I'm not just going to cut this straight across. This needs to be intact so we can make the piece for the back of the which goes against the back doors. So our best bet is probably to take this out with the jigsaw very carefully, and if we go a little bit wobbly on the lines, we'll just file that up later. Now the top fit on there is pretty good, I would say. We're up here and we're up here. This is good. We're still a little bit over, so I'm just going to whip a little bit off the bottom of that. What does that look like? It's not much, it's about 5mm. I'm going to take about 5-6mm off the bottom, and then I think we'll be close. Okay, second attempt, and that looks okay. That's going to fit in there nicely. Fits nicely around this locker here. That's all good. We have our 5mm overhang here, and we have a 5mm overhang at the back there. So this is all looking good. Next thing we want to do is just draw in. Next thing we want to do is just draw in this line here, so that we can take that off, and then our panel should be good. Alright, so I've marked the opening out on that. Probably can't see it as very fine pencil mark, and I've marked the holes in the corner where I'm going to cut them, and I'm going to whip them out with this hole saw. And with the main holes out, I'll just jigsaw the rest of that out, then we'll take a look at it. And has made a frame for this cutout, which I'm going to stick to the back of it, and this will give us something to drill through, because what I'm going to do is put like a zigzag bungee on the front of this, and we want something a little bit more substantial than the 5mm ply to take that. So I'm going to put this frame all the way around. I'll just glue, put a couple of screws in, that'll be fine. So let me show you what I've done with that. I've put on the back of it this frame. I have filled the holes up. When everything's dry, I'll just sand that down to the wooden frame inside, and that will be good to go. Now, that's it for this video. Next time there's a couple of more panels to make in there. There'll be the electrical panel, the switch panel, with all of the switches on, and the 240 outlet. We have the back panel to make, and we want to paint them up and get them stuck in the van. Then what are we up to? We're up to the worktop at that point, I think, making the worktop. Yeah. So, well, thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, do give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see how this van turns out and more vans in the future, then do consider subscribing to the channel. In the meantime, I thank you very much.